Hey guys, so today I want us to talk about kind of a somber subject. What led to Hitler's rise in power? And I'm going to present to you some ideas from both an article I read and from a live witness. First, Hitler was part of a political party that was called the Socialist German Workers' Party. And it's an attractive sounding name, I suppose, that makes its ploy to the average worker and them being treated fairly and them being able to gain in financial status that would bring a balance to the riches that seemingly are only enjoyed by a few. But in German, the party's name was shortened to the word Nazi. Hitler was also an excellent speaker, very convincing in what he said, and Hitler was actually described with the following words as being able to milk an audience and shape an audience and get it to feel. Now, due to war efforts and Germany losing World War I, there was a great economic and a social unrest that took place there, and that made the environment ripe for things like conspiracy theories. Some of these theories promoted racism, including that of the Jewish people in Germany that they had stabbed Germany in the back. Eventually, Hitler procured some backing from the media, and they presented him as a moral man, even though it was completely fabricated. Yet, thankfully, there was still a silent majority group of middle-class people that saw through all the baloney, and they caused him to lose the election for presidency. But we're still asking what caused his rise. Well, to make a long story short, with everything that we just talked about, and political pressures then forced hands, and Hitler was given political positions that he eventually used to assume full power over the country. And interestingly, even though Hitler strong-armed his way into the government, the media continued to present Hitler as a quote-unquote cultured gentleman, loved by dogs and children. And Hitler became the Führer, and really he became a celebrity among many German people, specifically among one particular demographic of people. You know what that demographic was that fell in love with Adolf Hitler? Well, in order to answer that question, I refer you to a conversation that I had with my grandmother. You see, my grandmother grew up in Germany and was forced by her father to board one of the last ships that left Germany right before World War II began and come back to the States. And what she told me was this. She said there were a lot of people in Germany that knew that what Hitler was doing was wrong. And those that tried to fight against him, or even those that disagreed with Hitler, were silenced. Neighbors were turning neighbors in for speaking out against him. But then she described to me something about the general demographic of those who, at very least, internally objected to what Hitler was doing, even if they couldn't voice it. And she also talked about those who gave their full support and what demographic that was. So those that knew better, she explained, were mostly found in the older generation. And those that gave their full, unbridled support to him were mostly found in the younger generation. Those who would have been easily influenced by the institutions and the media. Your teenagers, your 20s and your 30-year-olds. It was the younger generation that was targeted by him and the propaganda, and it was the younger generation that succeeded in helping Hitler procure his power. And they were encouraged to turn in their terrible and wicked old school and traditionalist neighbors who might speak against or object to Adolf Hitler's ideals. I hope all of what you heard right there resounds to you as a scary, scary thought. And I hope that somehow we figure out how to instill in our young people truth and right that prevents the young and the immature minds from being easily swayed by people who are liars, or by false media, or by deceptive institutions of learning, or by manipulative public speakers. But I must warn you that history says civilizations have an uphill battle, because most avenues of change, and sure, some avenues of change can be good, but many of them are destructive ones, like we see in Hitler's rise to power. And they have been endorsed and promoted by the immature thoughts of the younger generations. It's why Paul looked at Timothy and he told him, don't do anything that will cause others to look down on you because you're young. Do right things, do good things. Don't do anything that will cause people to look down on you. And that's why the writer of Proverbs makes this statement in the book of Proverbs in chapter 1 and verse 8 to 9. You'll have to give me a minute, but let's look at this. This is what it says. Listen, my son, to your father's instruction, and do not forsake your mother's teaching. They are a garland to grace your head and a chain to adorn your neck. Your mom, dad, older generations won't always be right. But the reality is, if you listen to them, they will probably keep you from going down roads that a few really wicked people are trying to trick our younger generations into. I hope we can learn from that and help our younger generations grow in maturity in the Word of God by helping them to know what is true and what is right. We'll see you in a few days.